What if we told you that Captain Ibrahim Traoré, president of Burkina Faso, is now at the very edge of a danger zone, where assassination is not just a possibility, but a historical pattern? The situation unfolding in Burkina Faso is unprecedented in modern African politics. What Traoré is doing hasn't just shaken the region. It has sent shockwaves through Western capitals. For decades, Western powers, especially former colonial rulers, never imagined that an African leader would rise to openly defy them, diminish their influence, and expel them outright. But that's exactly what Ibrahim Traoré has done. With fierce determination, he has launched a political and ideological battle against Western domination, particularly the deeply entrenched influence of France. He's not just making symbolic gestures. He is taking strategic, tangible actions and forming alliances that directly threaten the geopolitical interests of the West. In the eyes of these foreign powers, Traoré has crossed a red line, one that has historically led to coups, foreign-backed regime change, or worse, assassination. Yet, despite expectations, he remains in power, defying odds and thwarting potential plots. So what exactly did Ibrahim Traoré do that so rattled the West? To understand this, we need to look at both the symbolism and the substance of his actions. Traoré has not only reached the red line Western powers warn African leaders not to cross, he has obliterated it. His rise represents a new kind of leadership, bold, unapologetically anti-imperialist, and willing to embrace alternative alliances that serve national interests over foreign agendas. Since taking power in 2022, Traoré has dramatically redefined Burkina Faso's foreign policy. He cut long-standing colonial ties with France, which many in the country viewed as a neo-colonial overseer rather than a partner. The Burkinabe people had grown increasingly disillusioned with France's heavy-handed involvement in internal matters, often seen as more about control than cooperation. Western-backed counter-terrorism operations and development initiatives were viewed as ineffective, even counterproductive, fueling resentment. This frustration opened the door for Traoré's radical reorientation toward non-Western powers, especially Russia. The partnership was not simply pragmatic, it was symbolic. It marked Burkina Faso's assertion of independence and Pan-African identity. Yet Traoré knew he couldn't dismantle decades of neocolonial influence overnight. He had to act with strategic precision. He began quietly, removing key French operatives and officials while keeping his larger intentions concealed. By reducing foreign visibility and influence, he minimized the chances of preemptive sabotage. Once his foundation was secure, he moved openly. He expelled the French ambassador, suspended military and political agreements with France, and blocked French media outlets accused of spreading disinformation. With each step, he stripped away the mechanisms of foreign control. His statements became increasingly explicit, condemning Western interference and calling for African sovereignty. His pivot toward Russia signaled not only a geopolitical shift, but a rebuke of the West's historical exploitation. Traoré's vision aligns with a broader Pan-African awakening, a call for unity, self-reliance, and resistance to foreign manipulation. In this context, the reaction from the West was predictable. In response to Burkina Faso's Russian ties, Western media and officials launched a narrative war. The presence of the Wagner Group, a Russian military contractor operating in Africa, became a focal point of this propaganda. Western governments accused Wagner of committing atrocities. But this raised a key question. If mercenaries are so dangerous, why has the West maintained its own military presence across the continent for decades? This reveals a deep hypocrisy. The same powers criticizing Russia for meddling in African affairs have long done the same, under the guise of peacekeeping and development aid. In reality, these interventions often serve economic interests and political control. Traoré's defiance exposes the cracks in this system. He has proven that African nations do not have to accept the status quo. He is not just resisting, he is rewriting the rules, and that makes him a target. But as Burkina Faso continues on this path, one thing is clear. Traoré's leadership represents a turning point. Whether one agrees with his methods or not, his actions have reignited a crucial conversation about Africa's sovereignty, its alliances, and its future. For Russia, Burkina Faso has become far more than just another African partner. It's a vital strategic ally in Moscow's broader ambition to reshape global power dynamics and challenge Western dominance. Geopolitically positioned in West Africa and rich in natural resources, Burkina Faso offers Moscow both influence and opportunity. And in return, Russia offers something the West has long failed to provide: respect for sovereignty, tangible support, and a genuine alternative. The Russia-Burkina Faso relationship has deepened rapidly and decisively. In the vacuum left by France's withdrawal, Russia has stepped in as Burkina Faso's primary supplier of military equipment and logistical support. This shift has significantly enhanced the Burkinabe government's ability to counter terrorist threats, precisely where Western-led interventions had failed or intentionally stagnated. Unlike France, whose strategy appeared to benefit from instability by fostering dependency, Russia has provided the kind of assistance that actually empowers Burkina Faso. In doing so, Moscow disrupted a Western tactic that has been used across Africa for decades: fuel conflict, then offer conditional help. Russia broke that cycle. But the alliance is not limited to military ties. Burkina Faso, under Captain Ibrahim Traoré's leadership, has opened up its economic future to Moscow. The two countries have inked deals in mining, energy, infrastructure, and other key sectors. These agreements represent not just economic diversification, but a clear rejection of the exploitative practices associated with traditional Western partnerships. In turn, Burkina Faso has found in Russia more than just a business partner. It has found a powerful international defender. Russia has used its global platform to shield the Traoré government from Western criticism, pressure, and potential sanctions. This support has not only bolstered Traoré's image on the international stage, but also reinforced his legitimacy at home, especially within the military and political ranks. Crucially, Russian President Vladimir Putin's personal endorsement of Traoré has added another layer of stability to this alliance. Putin's recognition and continued backing, militarily, diplomatically, and economically, has helped Traoré consolidate control over the military, a cornerstone of his power. With this firm base, Traoré has gone from needing a powerful ally to becoming a powerful figure in its own right. Today, Traoré stands as one of Africa's most defiant and independent leaders. A man who once needed Russian backing to resist Western interference, but who now has enough strength to stand on his own. His foreign policy vision isn't just about shifting alliances, it's about reclaiming African agency. Traoré's alignment with Russia is rooted in principle, not dependency. Unlike previous foreign partners who looted resources and dictated terms, Russia offered respect and mutual benefit. And in return, Burkina Faso gave Moscow something it had long lacked: symbolic legitimacy in Africa. In a move that stunned the Western world, President Traoré publicly declared the full support of the Burkinabe people for Russia's military operation in Ukraine. This was no minor political gesture. It was a bold and intentional rebuke of Western ideological influence in Africa. Traoré made it clear: Burkina Faso will no longer mirror Western foreign policy just to appease global powers. His message echoes one of the most iconic statements ever made by Nelson Mandela, who warned the West against assuming that its enemies should automatically be the world's enemies. Traoré is living that vision today. His foreign policy reflects the belief that African nations have the right to chart their own course, define their own interests, and choose their own allies. Gone are the days when African countries needed to ask permission from Paris, London, or Washington before making foreign policy decisions. Under Traoré, Burkina Faso is leading a wider Pan-African shift, away from colonial-era thinking and towards true sovereignty. His leadership sends a clear signal to the rest of the continent. African nations can and must break free from the outdated assumptions that have long limited their political and economic freedom. By choosing what is right for Burkina Faso rather than what is convenient for the West, President Traoré is rewriting Africa's role in global affairs. This isn't just about one country, it's about the awakening of a continent. President Ibrahim Traoré is championing a revolutionary shift in African diplomacy, one that breaks decisively from colonial-era paradigms. He advocates for a continent where nations define their own strategic interests, choose their allies based on regional realities, and no longer automatically adopt the West's enemies as their own. This isn't just political rhetoric, it's a radical redefinition of African sovereignty and global engagement. Historically, such ideas were taboo. Any African leader daring to challenge the established Western order or to align with adversaries of the West was swiftly silenced, often permanently. Traoré is defying that precedent, not just with words, but with bold, calculated action. One of his most striking moves came when he announced the renewal of diplomatic ties with North Korea, the very nation often labeled as the ultimate adversary by the West. This decision sent shockwaves through international diplomatic circles, not just because of who North Korea is, but because of what it represents: defiance of Western authority and an alternative model of resistance. This rekindled relationship is rooted in history. In the early years of Burkina Faso's independence, North Korea extended limited agricultural and technical aid, planting the seeds of ideological alignment. That alignment blossomed under Captain Thomas Sankara, a Marxist revolutionary who took power in 1983. Sankara admired North Korea's socialist self-reliance, formalized bilateral relations, and visited Pyongyang twice, first as prime minister and later as president. Under Sankara, the partnership deepened with military collaboration and cultural exchange. The formation of a North Korea-Burkina Faso Friendship Association was more than symbolic. It was a bold ideological statement. However, following Sankara's assassination in 1987, widely believed to have been orchestrated with Western support, his successor Blaise Compaoré maintained relations briefly before reversing course. By 2009, Compaoré, under Western pressure, aligned with UN sanctions and voted for Resolution 1874, reinforcing the international isolation of North Korea. This marked the beginning of a pro-Western tilt and the abandonment of Sankara's independent vision. But history, as we see now, was merely waiting for a leader bold enough to finish what Sankara started. Traoré has reignited that flame. After a 6-year diplomatic freeze, Burkina Faso and North Korea re-established relations on March 30, 2023. This move wasn't just symbolic, it was strategic. Traoré sees in North Korea a potential partner to help rebuild Burkina Faso's defense sector, combat terrorism, and reduce reliance on Western security models that have long failed the region. Their renewed collaboration could span various sectors: military training, agricultural development, healthcare infrastructure, mining, and scientific research. North Korea's experience in self-sufficiency, particularly in defense and industrial development under sanctions, offers an appealing model for a nation seeking to escape foreign dependency. However, this partnership comes with risks. Any potential procurement of arms from North Korea would violate existing UN sanctions and might invite economic penalties or diplomatic fallout. But Traoré is undeterred. He's made it clear he won't abide by international rules that harm his country while benefiting others. His priority is Burkina Faso's strength and sovereignty, not Western approval. More provocatively, North Korea's nuclear status raises a critical question. Could Burkina Faso one day seek nuclear expertise or technology? While this would certainly provoke global outrage, The very possibility underscores just how far Traoré is willing to go to secure his nation's autonomy. If that vision materializes, Burkina Faso would become not just independent, but untouchable. In essence, President Traoré isn't merely restoring old alliances. He's building a new playbook for African foreign policy. One that says, Africa will no longer be told who to fear, who to trust, or how to survive. Burkina Faso's emerging relationship with North Korea is more than a geopolitical move. It's a declaration of ideological emancipation. So the question is no longer if Africa can break free from Western control, but who's next? And will they have the courage to stand as firmly as Traoré? Once a nation possesses nuclear capabilities, the dynamic of global power changes fundamentally. No longer can Western countries impose their will or threaten that nation with impunity. North Korea stands as a compelling example. Despite facing some of the harshest international sanctions in modern history, it continues to operate independently, conduct business, and assert its sovereignty. The West, for all its might, is limited in what it can do. This reality offers an intriguing prospect for African countries, a path to absolute liberation. If they follow a similar route, pursuing strategic autonomy, diversifying alliances, and embracing multipolarity, they could finally escape the grip of Western dominance. This shift would mark the end of Africa serving as a resource base exploited for the prosperity of others. At the forefront of this transformation is Burkina Faso, under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré. His government's bold pivot toward Russia has sparked both hope and speculation. Observers suggest that this move could ignite a broader realignment across the continent, one in which Russian influence eclipses that of the West. Burkina Faso, by virtue of its geography, natural wealth, and political direction, is uniquely positioned to spearhead such a shift. Nestled in the heart of West Africa, and bordered by strategically important nations like Mali and Niger, Burkina Faso is not just another landlocked country. It is a bridge between nations, a corridor of ideas, and now possibly a hub of geopolitical transformation. Its rich mineral reserves, including gold and manganese, make it a valuable partner to any global power. Coupled with its need for military and infrastructural support in the fight against terrorism, the partnership with Russia becomes mutually beneficial. Should Burkina Faso's cooperation with Russia prove effective, economically, militarily, and diplomatically, it could inspire neighboring nations and others across Africa to reconsider their alliances. A domino effect could follow, with more African states shifting away from Western influence and aligning with alternative powers that offer respect, security, and partnership instead of exploitation. This realignment is no longer theoretical, it is already unfolding. Captain Traoré has not only crossed the proverbial red line drawn by Western powers, but he is also laying the groundwork for a new regional order. The proposed confederation between Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso is a historic development, signaling a desire for political and economic integration beyond symbolic cooperation. If realized, this confederation could serve as a model for broader African unity, breaking the mold of colonial borders and fragmented governance. Unlike traditional alliances that function primarily as forums for discussion, this bloc could evolve into a powerful union, one that functions collectively in matters of trade, defense, foreign policy, and development. More than a regional pact, this confederation envisions the very foundation of a United States of Africa, a long-dreamed concept where the continent functions not as divided nations, but as a single sovereign entity with shared goals and collective strength. This vision goes beyond Pan-Africanism. It is a strategic blueprint to reposition Africa as a global powerhouse. To bring this vision to life, the Confederation would need strong legal frameworks and institutional capacity, parliaments, courts, and unified defense forces. These mechanisms would ensure stability, continuity, and shared governance among member states, allowing Africa to respond with one voice to global challenges and opportunities. Captain Ibrahim Traoré is not just disrupting old alliances. He is reimagining Africa's future. And if this vision spreads, it may one day lead to an Africa that no longer negotiates its dignity, but asserts it, not just as a collection of countries, but as one formidable force on the world stage. Agreements forming the bedrock of the proposed Confederation would bind African nations to a shared vision. One rooted in sovereignty, unified governance, and collective economic strategies. This Pan-African alliance would go beyond symbolic unity. It would function as a tangible structure for self-determination and collaborative progress, challenging centuries-old narratives defined by foreign domination. Through this confederation, Africa would assert a stronger diplomatic presence, gain leverage in global decision-making, and promote partnerships based on mutual respect rather than dependency. By dissolving the fractures of regionalism, the initiative aims to forge a unified entity, one that authentically represents the continent's diverse ambitions while amplifying its voice on the world stage. This is where Captain Ibrahim Traoré's boldness becomes unmistakably clear. His defiance of Western hegemony through strategic partnerships with Russia, North Korea, and China signals not just a shift in Burkina Faso's foreign policy, but a continental awakening. These alliances offer an alternative path, one that challenges the traditional West-dominated order and opens new channels for development, military assistance, and ideological solidarity. By laying the groundwork for a Pan-African confederation, Traoré adds yet another dimension to his geopolitical maneuvering. If successful, such a bloc could realign Africa's power structure, encouraging intra-African cooperation while diminishing the continent's historical dependence on Western powers. But Traoré's audacity raises a fundamental question: what fuels this resistance? The answer may lie in a blend of historical reckoning, strategic necessity, and ideological commitment. His efforts appear to respond not only to economic disparities and security challenges, but also to the lingering legacy of colonialism and imposed alliances. In confronting this imbalance, Traoré embodies a vision of Africa rising on its own terms. History offers a cautionary tale. Leaders who dared to challenge this order, Patrice Lumumba, Muammar Gaddafi, and notably Thomas Sankara, paid the ultimate price. Traoré's moves echo Sankara's revolutionary legacy, but with a crucial difference. Today, he is shielded by powerful allies. His alliances with Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un serve as deterrents. Any threat to his leadership could be interpreted as a provocation against Russia or North Korea, nations that have demonstrated a willingness to respond decisively to external aggression. In this context, Traoré's survival may rest not only on his domestic popularity or military control, but also on the geopolitical insulation provided by these international partnerships. The threat of retaliation, whether diplomatic, economic, or military, may dissuade Western powers from repeating the cycle of covert intervention. So now we ask, has Captain Ibrahim Traoré created a shield strong enough to resist the coups, plots, and external pressure that silenced his predecessors? Or is he treading the same dangerous path that cost revolutionary leaders their lives? Is his strategic defiance empowering Africa, or is it a gamble that could once again put a visionary at risk? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories about African sovereignty, Black history, and global power dynamics.